Don't know about you. I'm pretty moved.
It's really difficult to explain the feeling right now. We've been walking around the area. Behind us, of course, is the site. You see the site of the new construction. We just spoke to a firefighter from Wales who considered the lost firefighters of 9/11 his brothers just as much as any firefighter here in New York or any firefighter anywhere else in the country. And Jay, I would describe, I don't know about you, but as we got into this district, did you notice how quiet New York is in this part right here?
It's funny you should say that because I'd never been to New York City before. And I asked somebody at the hotel, I said, is it normally it's strange? And they said, no, it usually is really busy this time of day and this time of year.
And what's interesting, I've talked to a number of people, and you drove in, we flew in, we drove from the airport. You saw the massive police presence. New Yorkers, I think, are oblivious to the quote-unquote credible threat, and this is literally a weekend of remembrance for them.
It is. We went through the Holland Tunnel this morning, and I don't think I've ever seen a police presence that was quite that big. You're talking, and we found out later they were checking A, for box vehicles, and B, every single license plate coming through was scanned through a camera to make sure it wasn't stolen. That's where this is at. New Yorkers, you're right, they're not fazed.
Yeah, they're not in the least. And we had the opportunity to speak to an organization that is really trying to bring together the families who lost loved ones in 9/11. And it's hard for me to come up with a word to define what this weekend is about for those who were emotionally touched. It's not sad. It certainly isn't celebratory, but it's remembering. But there's a mood and an emotion in this city that I've never felt before.
The same gentleman you were talking about, I asked him, what's it like? What's it going to be like tomorrow for you? And he said, he had just given a speech to a couple of hundred people at this gathering. He said, 5 years ago, I don't think I could have done what I did. So he said, at this point in time, it's the oddest thing you've ever did. And he was one that actually, he was telling me, somebody lifted him up out of the second building and carried him out the building and 6 blocks down. It's the only reason he lived. Otherwise, he wouldn't be around. He said, I have no idea, once I saw the plane hit, what happened.
Everybody remembers where they were on 9/11. You and I were together.
Same place.
Yeah. We were in a staff meeting.
Right.
And in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And I first came to New York earlier this year. You've never been. We remember where we were the way everybody in America does. Folks who live here, obviously, it's very different. I am going to never forget. Just about every hair is standing on my head, my arms. I will never forget this moment, standing here.
No, and you don't get the how big the bigness of it all until you actually see it. That is a really big hole. These had to be gargantuan buildings.
It's a big hole in so many ways. It left a hole in people's lives. It left a hole, and we heard a lot of talk. Some folks were talking with earlier about where we go from here, the memorial, the finishing, the construction of the new buildings. I think as we look back 10 years, I think it's now all about looking forward.
I think you have to do that because you know what, New Yorkers and Americans don't want to dwell 10 years ago. They don't want to dwell where they were at.
No, absolutely. And again, I think looking forward, that's what this weekend's all about.